welcome to a new episode of the VGH. I am Christian Conrad Mux. Today we're actually going to be talking about Link's Awakening, one of the classic games that I just always really liked, and etc. But it's going to have a little special twinge to it today because it's actually Link's Awakening and the Twin Peaks connection. It's something I've kind of heard about a long time ago. I'll kind of get into it, whatever. But they're actually directly connected to each other, which is kind of amazing. You have a kids game and one of the best TV shows of all time. It's like a murder and everything. That they're just all part of the story. So you know what? I think I'm just gonna get right into it. Okay. So first, right, we got a little Link's Awakening, right? Wonderful, great game. Loved it as a kid. Well, when I was a young teenager, I think when I started playing it. It had been out for a number of years at that point, but that's kind of when I got access to it. And I just remember feeling like it had some of the most beautiful music I'd ever had in a game. And it was also sad. I was for a Zelda game, it actually was kind of tragic, right? So Link the story, the synopsis, is that and this game came out in 1983 is that Link he's shipwrecked on the island of Kohold, after Link to the Past, right? The same Link, it's actually a different Link in the different Zelda games, if you don't know that already. Which is kind of an interesting thing. This actually is the actual Link from that game. And he gets shipwrecked and he ends up landing on this island, and there's a giant egg in the middle of it, and it turns out he finds out that it's sort of the dreamland of the windfish, which is this creature that lives inside of it. It's a giant whale creature. That flies and has little tiny wings, and he must go around the island, collect instruments, and defeat the nightmares, which are the protectors of these different instruments. And he has to play the song of the windfish, but in doing so, he doesn't know if maybe when he plays that song, that it turns out that this entire island was the dream of the windfish, which means that all the other creatures are just everything living on the planet will just cease to exist, i.e. just death. Which is a pretty dark precedent for a game to begin with, you know? Yeah, there's even an owl, as you see, there's an owl talking to him through the story and seeing what he can do, nudging him, saying, this is how you can get to, get these instruments and do it. And you're sort of left with this moral ambiguity for much of the game. And so this is easily one of the best Zelda games of all time. They just did a really great job. It set the tone for a lot of different things that they ended up doing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Now that kind of brings me to Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks was around 1990. Right, but also 1981 was 1981 was when the show was first having its showing, and also they actually had a movie called Fire Walk with Me that was in 92, so that's the era, right. So Link's Awakening came out a year after that, but games take a little while to develop, that kind of stuff. So the synopsis for Twin Peaks, if you haven't seen it, it's awesome. It's probably one of the greatest TV shows I've probably ever seen. Just watch about the first 16 episodes and then just let the rest ride because it sort of falls apart. But its precedent is so amazing. I mean, you ever heard of a TV show where essentially a girl is found dead and it's a small town and everyone sort of has traumatized by it and they have to figure out what they're gonna do with this dead girl and who did it and trying to figure it out, and you got an FBI agent who comes in to figure out if it's a serial killer. You have supernatural scary ghost stuff, and it's even got owls too. We're going to talk about that. And they're all there's so many different things. You have you got the log lady, we're going to talk about her, and you have a chick with an eye patch, I think she's a cheerleader that goes just insane, it's really, really strong, and some beautiful little love stories mixed in there, but it's spooky and scary and beautiful with amazing dream sequences. It's really one of the most dynamic shows I've probably ever seen, and this show came out a really long time, about 25 years ago actually. Yeah, and pretty much everybody in the town has a hidden agenda. There's doppelgangers all over the place. There's half crazy mountain folk. It's comical, like I said. Yeah, it's totally worth your time. So Wikipedia says that it became a part of pop culture that's been referenced in television shows, commercials, comic books, video games, films, and song lyrics. Yeah, it's totally with the time. It's sort of fascinating, strange, crazy. Now, one thing is to think about is how are these even like connected to each other? Because you have a TV show that I didn't mention it, but a TV show that was done by David Lynch, right? The guy who does like Mulholland Drive or Eraserhead, or even Blue Velvet, if you've seen those, right? A guy who's well pretty different, but, those things than, let's say, Japanese video game design. But they are actually connected. That's what the fascinating thing is. And the connection is actually Japan. Because Japan really, really liked Twin Peaks during that time. It was actually a big deal all over the world. But The Fire Walk With Me, which didn't actually do very well in America, that movie came out in 1982, and it was like a total hit in Japan. They loved it, man. I mean, heck, they even have like a Japanese character in the story, there's like Japanese businessmen or whatever kind of stuff. And so it was kind of on people's minds in Japan around that time, particularly on these guys' minds. Oh, well, Twin Peaks was very popular at the time, right? We all get that. But particularly on these guys' minds. These guys are Nintendo game developers. Let's see, suspicious idiots talk about that. They're Nintendo game developers, Shigeru Miyamoto and also Takashi Tezuka. These are like, they kind of created it. Shigeru Miyamoto, he's the guy who created like Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, right? And then Takashi was one of his main guys, and he was kind of in the show, and he was like, you know what? Let's make this game be full of suspicious character types, right? Like everyone's kind of a little suspicious. You're always debating if you trust people or trust different characters, and you're not quite sure. I mean, heck, you don't even know if you trust Link, really, for that matter, because everyone's saying, like, if you do this stuff, it's going to kill everybody. If you get all these instruments, it's going to kill the whole island. So everyone on the island, they trust Link, but they also have that bit of untrustworthiness. And there's kind of a whole mix of that throughout the whole thing. And I don't know, actually creates it really unique. And so they make the game full of suspicious character types. And like I said, novel idea. And so that was kind of the base premise that they had, right? Well, let me go back to that. That was kind of the base premise that they had, was that, it was, let's make a game with suspicious character types, that kind of thing. But I think with how much influence that they ended up actually having with it, out of the game, because they kind of push it on, it kind of is more, right? So I ended up reading an article, I'll send a link over. And reading an article about it, and I was like, that's kind of cool. And I was like, well, let me kind of think about it, because I'm pretty into Twin Peaks, and I also like, Zelda games, right? And I was like, like, cultural reference, particularly since Link's Awakening is so influential in all of Zelda games from that point forward. There's suspicious character types in every Zelda game from that point. So let's kind of dig a little deeper. Okay, so first we got Dreams, right? Both games actually, both storylines, right? Both Twin Peaks and Link's Awakening both are involved with dreams, right? Like in Link's Awakening, Link is basically in a dream the whole time. As you see kind of here, he's just sort of sleeping on a log, like. In theory, all the hours you end up playing that game, it's really just Link taking a nap in the middle of the ocean. While in Twin Peaks, they have all these special sequences. There's a little nice picture of the man from some other place. Is that there's actually dreams throughout the story that, of the TV show. The TV show lasted 2 seasons. And you kind of get these clues and saying it's actually in the Black Lodge. And you get this kind of guy, this little tiny man in a red suit that dances really cool, dresses cool too, and he speaks backwards. Random fun fact, for whatever it's worth, is that I guess David Lynch wanted the actor that played the man from that place, wanted him to speak backwards, but I guess when he was like growing up, he was actually like spoke backwards with his friends. So he actually could do it really good, and so David actually expanded the storyline with it. It's kind of, it creates this illusion of what's real and what's fake. Like where are we trying to face here? I mean, in the story of Link's Awakening, is essentially Link returns to the real world, right? That's his goal. While in Twin Peaks, his goal is to actually physically go to the Black Lodge and see what it is. So even in both stories, you're given this gray area of what's real and what's